I need to confess something that makes me sound like a monster. Everyone thinks Marcus left our bedroom because I said his body couldn't compete with silicone and batteries. They're wrong, but I can't correct them without admitting what I actually did. I orchestrated this entire disaster. The truth is, I might lose my marriage, my best friend, and any shred of self-respect I once had. People online are calling me a sex-positive feminist icon, which proves they don't understand the first thing about how deep this betrayal goes. I'm terrified that when you learn the whole story, you'll realize I'm even worse than the villain Marcus believes I am. I'm going to tell you everything, the planning, the lies, the moment I pretended to prefer my collection over my husband. But first you need to understand why I had an entire spreadsheet tracking which dildo would push him over the edge. Marcus and I met 3 years ago at a hardware store of all places. I was trying to figure out why my shower head kept leaking and he pretended to be an expert on rubber washers. Turns out he knew nothing about plumbing but everything about making me laugh. We moved in together 8 months later, blending our lives with the ease of people who have never been truly tested. The bedroom was never our problem, not at first. Marcus was attentive, gentle, the kind of lover who checked in constantly. But after the first year his patience started feeling like hesitation. He'd ask, "Is this okay?" so many times that I'd lose the thread of desire entirely. I began faking orgasms just to end the questions, which made me resentful, which made him more tentative. A vicious cycle wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets. I bought my first toy 6 months ago. A small bullet vibrator, nothing threatening. I hid it in my sock drawer like a teenager hiding weed from her parents. When Marcus worked late, I'd spend 20 minutes with it and feel like I'd reclaimed some part of myself that had gone dormant. The simplicity of it, no performance, no negotiation, just predictable release, became addictive. The lying started small. Marcus would ask about my day, and I'd omit the 30 minutes I'd spent testing the new rabbit vibrator that had arrived in discreet packaging. I'd laugh at his jokes while mentally cataloging which angle worked best. He noticed my distraction but attributed it to work stress. The stack of sex-positive articles on my nightstand, masturbation as self-care, reclaiming female pleasure, seemed to reassure him that this was about empowerment, not dissatisfaction. 2 months ago I made the decision that would unravel everything. Marcus suggested we try a couple's toy, something we could use together. I recoiled without thinking, snapping that I preferred my solo toys because they didn't require a committee meeting. His face crumpled like aluminum foil. I could have apologized then, explained the performance anxiety his caution created. Instead, I doubled down, listing the benefits: efficiency, precision, no emotional labor. I watched him shut down in real time, saw him retreat behind a wall of quiet hurt that would become permanent. I knew exactly which toys would wound him most, the ones I'd been sent for free after signing an NDA with a manufacturer. But mentioning that would require explaining the entire arrangement, and I wasn't ready for that conversation. The guest room became his sanctuary after that fight. He'd stay up late watching documentaries about space exploration, the blue light of his laptop seeping under the door while I lay in our king-sized bed alone, surrounded by silicone shapes that suddenly felt like accomplices. I told myself this was progress, finally honesty about my needs. My Instagram account started as a joke. 3 photos of my toy collection with captions like, "My partners don't argue about the dishes." Within a week, I had 2,000 followers. By the end of the month, a boutique brand messaged me offering free products in exchange for honest reviews. I accepted without telling Marcus, rationalizing that it was my body, my choice, my harmless secret. What was the harm, really? Marcus refused to meet my needs, so I found a community that did. If he felt emasculated by silicone, that was his problem, not mine. I kept telling myself this as I filmed unboxing videos while he slept down the hall. The first check arrived in the mail, $500 for a sponsored post. I cashed it immediately, opening a separate bank account Marcus knew nothing about. I told myself married couples were allowed separate finances, even though we'd always been transparent before. The money felt like validation, proof that my pleasure had value. Then came the direct messages from men asking if I needed a real man instead of toys. I blocked them at first, but the attention was intoxicating. I began responding to the more articulate ones, claiming I was single and too focused on my career for relationships. It was a lie wrapped in a performance of independence, and I couldn't get enough of it. Marcus asked about my phone usage one morning, nodding I'd been up until 3 a.m. I showed him the baby's breath filter I was editing for my feed, neglecting to mention the DM conversation with a follower who sent me $300 for a personalized video. Marcus smiled, relieved it was just your hobby, and I felt a flicker of something I mistook for power. The money grew, so did the lies. I invented a friend named Cassie who supposedly loaned me camera equipment, explaining away the new ring light and tripod. Marcus offered to meet Cassie, help her move some furniture. I panicked, saying she was intensely private and going through a rough divorce. He backed off, trusting me, and the trust felt like a noose tightening. My most popular post featured a realistic dildo with a caption about finally finding a man who hits all the right spots without asking for directions. It got 10,000 likes and a comment from Marcus's sister asking if I was okay. I deleted her comment and blocked her, telling myself she was being nosy. The post's success convinced me I was doing something important, starting conversations, breaking taboos. I never told Marcus that the realistic toy in that viral post was modeled after his brother's exact measurements. The company had sent it as a custom sample after I'd sent them a detailed request form, complete with photos I'd stolen from his brother's Instagram. At the time, it seemed like a victimless fantasy. I understand now that the victim was Marcus's trust, and I'd been slowly murdering it for weeks. The confrontation happened on a Tuesday. Marcus came home early and found me filming, the custom toy positioned on the bed where he normally slept. He didn't recognize it for what it was, not consciously, but the horror on his face was unmistakable. "What are you doing?" he asked, and I heard the floor cracking beneath us. I told him I was creating content for my sexual wellness brand, a phrase I'd rehearsed in the mirror. He asked how long I'd been doing this. I said 2 months, omitting the 6 weeks before that when I'd just been building my following with stolen moments of our intimacy, anonymized but detailed enough that anyone who knew us would recognize the stories. "Show me the account," he demanded, and I refused. Not because of the toys, but because 3 posts down, I'd shared a screenshot of a text conversation. His text conversation, the one where he'd confessed feeling inadequate after his promotion fell through. I'd used his vulnerability as content, captioning it, "When men think their career struggles entitle them to slack off in bed." 30,000 people had seen his private pain, and he'd had no idea. He moved out of the bedroom completely that night. I heard him packing a bag in the guest room, the zipper sounding like a final verdict. Instead of stopping, I posted a video of me organizing my toy collection to somber piano music, captioning it, "Sometimes self-love means letting go of what no longer serves you." The comments flooded with support, telling me I was strong, brave, and inspiration. I read them while Marcus cried in the next room, and I chose the comments. The worst part, the part I haven't admitted to anyone, not even my therapist, is that I timed that post to go live 10 minutes after I heard him crying, knowing it would appear spontaneous and authentic. The performance of independence was always more important than the reality of our partnership, but there was an even more calculated betrayal coming that would make this look like a minor misunderstanding. My following doubled after Marcus left the bedroom. The narrative wrote itself: woman chooses pleasure over patriarchal expectations, man can't handle her empowerment. I received interview requests from feminist podcasts, a literary agent asking if I'd consider a memoir. I accepted every invitation, telling myself I was building a brand, securing my financial future. Marcus stopped speaking to me unless necessary. We became roommates who shared a mortgage, passing each other in the kitchen with the careful distance of strangers. I told my followers we were redefining our relationship structure, a phrase that got me featured in an online magazine. The journalist called me refreshingly honest. I didn't mention that Marcus had asked for a divorce, and I'd begged him to wait until after my first major sponsorship deal came through. The sponsorship was with a company called Better Than Him, a brand that explicitly marketed toys as replacements for inadequate partners. They wanted me to film a video using their products in our marital bed, the sheets visibly rumpled from 2 people sleeping apart. I agreed, scheduling the shoot for a day I knew Marcus would be at his brother's house, the brother whose measurements I'd stolen for that custom toy. The video went viral. Marcus's mother saw it. She called him hysterical, asking if he was impotent. He came home that night and threw my entire collection into garbage bags, not caring that some cost hundreds of dollars. I filmed his rage through the crack in the door, posting it to my close friend's story with the caption, "The patriarchy fights back when you threaten its power." 3 people screen recorded it and sent it to him. I expected him to scream to throw me out. Instead, he sat down on the floor among the scattered toys and sobbed. "I just wanted to make you happy," he said, and for the first time I felt the genuine weight of what I'd destroyed. Not his ego, but his capacity to trust his own intentions. The validation I'd been chasing turned to ash in my mouth, but I'd already committed to the next phase of deception, and there was no revering the momentum. I helped him put the toys back, apologizing in vague terms about getting carried away with my platform. He looked at me with such fragile hope that I almost told him the truth. Instead, I posted an apology video to my account, explaining that I'd prioritize content over my partner's feelings and would be taking a break to focus on my marriage. The comments were brutal, calling me a sellout, saying I'd let the patriarchy win. I lost 10,000 followers overnight and felt the loss like a physical wound. Marcus saw the video and softened. He moved back into our bedroom, tentative, asking if we could try therapy. I agreed, already planning my comeback narrative, the redeemed wife, the couple who overcame society's toxic messaging about female pleasure. I had a meeting scheduled with a talent manager who specialized in authentic relationship content. The talent manager's first suggestion was that we do a joint unboxing video, something that would reclaim our narrative. I didn't tell Marcus that the package would contain a toy I'd personally designed with the company, one I'd named the Marcus replacement, in an email to their product team. The betrayal was becoming architectural, each lay a support beam for a structure that could only collapse. Our therapy sessions became content. I'd take notes during our fights, transcribing them into captions while Marcus showered. My phone became a third person in our marriage, witnessing moments that should have been private. When our therapist suggested intimacy exercises, I negotiated a sponsorship with a lingerie company to document our journey back to each other. Marcus didn't know I'd already spent the $5,000 advance. The lies required maintenance. I created fake email accounts for non-existent PR people, forwarding myself messages to show Marcus the opportunities I was turning down for our marriage. I'd cry while reading them, performing sacrifice. He'd hold me, whispering that my career mattered too, that we could find balance. I let him comfort me while planning a behind-the-scenes series about the reality of relationship rehab. Publicly, I posted heartfelt captions about doing the work and vulnerable communication. Privately, I was tracking analytics, calculating which emotional moments got the most shares. Marcus's genuine attempt to understand my needs became a performance for an invisible audience, and I was the director, the star, and the critic, rolling my eyes at his sincerity when the cameras weren't rolling. The gap between our private rebuilding and my public broadcast of it had become a canyon. The day of our joint unboxing arrived. Marcus dressed nicely, nervous about being on camera. I set up 3 different angles to capture his authentic reactions. The box contained not just the toy I'd designed, but a custom piece shaped like his brother, though I told the company to make it less obvious after the earlier close call. When Marcus pulled it out, his expression flickered with confusion, then recognition he couldn't quite place. "It's just abstract art," I said quickly, and he believed me because he wanted to. We filmed the video, me guiding his hands, him trying to be supportive. I posted it with a caption about growth and trust, and it performed moderately well. Not viral, but enough to keep the brand happy. That night, for the first time in months, we had sex. I faked it and posted about how healing intimacy feels different but beautiful. The next morning, Marcus's brother came over. He'd seen the video. "That's my fucking dick mold," he said, pulling up a screenshot from a fetish site where the custom company also sold celebrity replicas. Marcus looked at me, then at the toy, then at his brother's face. The silence that followed had the weight of a collapsing star, and I could see his entire understanding of me fracturing into pieces too small to reassemble. Marcus asked his brother to leave. Then he turned to me and said very quietly, "Tell me that's not true." I could have saved something then, could have claimed coincidence, manufacturing error. Instead, I told him the truth about the custom order, about the photos, about the detailed specifications. I left out the part where I'd slept with his brother once years before we met, which was how I knew those specifications in the first place. He didn't yell. He went to the guest room and called a divorce lawyer. I could hear him through the door, his voice flat and unfamiliar. "I need to know my options," he said. "She's been documenting everything." I filmed myself crying in the hallway, posted it to a private account I used for raw content, and captioned it, "When honesty destroys what lies built." Even in my lowest moment, I was performing. The lawyer's consultation turned into a bill I was supposed to see, but I checked Marcus's email while he showered, one of those small betrayals that had become routine. The email mentioned potential grounds: infidelity, emotional abuse, invasion of privacy. That last one made me laugh out loud, a sharp, hysterical sound that startled me. I was the one posting our life online. How could he claim I was invading his privacy? But then I saw the next line: "Client alleges wife has been recording him without consent for commercial purposes." The laughter turned to panic, a cold sweat breaking across my skin as I realized the legal system might see my content creation very differently than my followers did. I deleted the email, then deleted it from his trash, a small act of digital gaslighting that felt necessary. I couldn't have him thinking he had leverage. I posted a story about toxic partners who try to silence your truth, tagging it narcissistic abuse awareness. My DMs filled with women sharing their stories, telling me to stay strong, not let him intimidate me. I used their validation to build a wall between me and the reality that I was the one intimidating him, erasing his legal communications while building an online army against him. Marcus confronted me that night about the missing email. I played dumb, suggested he must have imagined it. He looked at me like I'd sprouted a second head, like I'd become someone he couldn't recognize. I have screenshots, he said quietly, and my bravado collapsed. He'd forwarded it to his brother before I could delete it. The screenshot showed more than the lawyer's email. It showed his brother's reply, "Bro, she did the same thing to me in college. Recorded us without permission. I didn't know how to tell you." The ground fell away from beneath me. I'd forgotten about that night, the fraternity party, the tape I'd made and shown to my friends as a conquest. Marcus knew now, and his knowledge of that ancient betrayal made everything I'd done since seem like a pattern rather than a mistake. I'd become a predator in his eyes, not just a liar. He'd known about the college incident when we started dating, his brother had warned him. I'd charmed my way past it, claiming youthful stupidity, promising I'd grown. Now my present actions proved I'd only grown more sophisticated in my deception. The screenshot was a smoking gun connecting my past and present, making me a monster with a methodology. Marcus didn't ask for an explanation. He packed a suitcase while I watched, filming his methodical movements through my phone's front camera, capturing the way his hands shook as he folded shirts. I posted a black square with the caption, "Sometimes the bravest thing is walking away from what no longer serves you," and my followers praised my strength. The irony that I'd posted it while watching my husband leave me was lost on everyone but me. The sponsorship deal I'd signed required me to post 3 more times that month, regardless of my personal circumstances. The contract had a morality clause I hadn't read, one that allowed them to drop me if I became involved in public scandal. I wasn't worried about Marcus exposing me, he was too private for that. But his brother wasn't, and the brother had the screenshot, and I'd been too arrogant to get him to sign an NDA. The final betrayal I was planning would require his silence, and I already knew I didn't have it. I tried calling Marcus's brother, reaching out through a fake number. He answered, listened to my voice for 3 seconds, and hung up. I texted from another burner, "I'll pay you." He replied, "You're sick, leave us alone." I screenshotted his reply, ready to spin it as harassment, but my lawyer, yes, I'd hired one now, a shark who specialized in influencer protection, told me to stand down. "You're already facing potential criminal charges," she said. "Wiretapping laws, revenge porn statutes, you need to go quiet." I fired her and hired someone more aggressive. The new guy, Ken, told me to get ahead of the story. "Leak something sympathetic," he suggested. "Make him look controlling." I gave him access to my old videos, the ones where Marcus looked frustrated, the ones I'd edited to remove context. He created a narrative controlling husband tries to shame wife for sexual autonomy. It almost worked. Publicly, I was the embattled heroine fighting for women's right to pleasure. Privately, I was frantically deleting emails from the toy company. Panicked because they'd sent me a cease and desist for violating their NDA. By showing the custom design process in a behind-the-scenes video, I thought I'd posted privately. The gap between my victim narrative and my actual role as aggressor had become so wide I couldn't see across it anymore. Marcus was consulting with lawyers about a restraining order, and I was filming a teary-eyed monologue about partners who weaponize the legal system. The court date arrived faster than I expected. Marcus had filed for divorce and a protective order, citing pattern of recording and public dissemination of private moments without consent. The judge was a woman in her 50s who didn't seem impressed by my Instagram following. When my lawyer argued that I had a First Amendment right to document my life, she asked if I'd obtained signed releases from everyone featured. I had not. Ken tried to pivot, claiming Marcus was emotionally abusive and controlling. The judge asked for evidence. I provided edited videos. Marcus provided unedited originals. The difference was damning. The unedited video showed what I'd cut: Marcus begging me to stop filming, asking for privacy, telling me our intimacy wasn't content. In my version, he looked controlling. In his, I looked like a woman repeatedly violating his boundaries while he grew more desperate. The worst moment was when he said, "Please just be with me, not your audience," and I'd laughed and kept recording. The judge watched it twice, her expression unreadable. Then she asked Marcus, "How long did this go on?" And he said, 6 months, since she got her first sponsorship. The timeline made me sick. I'd been selling his dignity for half a year while he tried to save our marriage. The protective order was granted. I had to move out within 48 hours, had to surrender my electronics for forensic examination, had to cease all online mentions of Marcus immediately. The divorce proceedings would determine how much of my earnings, our earnings legally, since I'd built the brand during our marriage, he was entitled to. Ken said I could lose everything. I moved into a studio apartment, the kind with paper-thin walls and a view of a brick wall. My follower count dropped by 200,000 when I disappeared from social media. The articles came out, "Influencer's ex wins protective order, claims she abused him for content." They included screenshots from my now-deleted posts, quotes from Marcus's brother about the college tape. I was officially a predator. a category I hadn't known existed for women like me. The toy company sued me for breach of contract, claiming I'd brought them into disrepute. They wanted the advance back plus damages, $75,000 I didn't have. My new apartment lease was month to month because my credit had tanked after Marcus closed our joint accounts. I tried to restart my account under a pseudonym, but the internet never forgets. A subreddit dedicated to exposing fake feminists had compiled every post, every comment, every deleted video. They'd found the custom toy blueprints, the emails with the product team, the confession that I'd used his brother as a model. The consequences had fully metastasized, spreading from my marriage into every corner of my financial and digital life. I got a job at a coffee shop, the kind where they don't Google employees. My first week, a customer recognized me. "You're that toy lady," he said, smirking. "My wife loves your stuff. Shame about your husband." I quit before my shift ended. The unemployment lasted 4 months, during which I lived off credit cards and the last of my savings. Marcus, meanwhile, had started dating someone from his office, a quiet woman who'd never posted a selfie in her life, according to the one friend who still talked to me. The friend stopped talking to me after I asked her to spy on Marcus for content. I was already planning my comeback, you see, a redemption arc. I'd title it Learning to Love After Losing Everything. I'd use a pseudonym, build slowly, make it about growth. The plan consumed me, this fantasy of rebirth that ignored the fact that I was still the same person who'd recorded her husband's pain for profit. What I didn't know until last week, what Marcus's brother told a mutual acquaintance who told me, was that Marcus had found the spreadsheet. The one I'd created at the very beginning, ranking toys by how effectively they'd hurt him. He'd discovered it when he was packing his things, saved on a cloud account I'd forgotten to log out of. That spreadsheet, more than any video or post, was what convinced him I was never the woman he thought he'd married. It proved I'd weaponized his insecurities intentionally, scientifically, which reframed every moment of our marriage into something he'd need years of therapy to understand wasn't his fault. The spreadsheet had notes like "too soft, doesn't trigger performance anxiety," and "perfect, made him sleep on couch." It was dated from before I'd even bought the first sponsored toy, proving I'd planned the entire trajectory, from his initial hurt to my eventual empowerment narrative. It was the smoking gun that turned me from a flawed person into a calculating abuser, and he'd found it. I think about that spreadsheet constantly now, the way I'd reduced my husband to data points for my own profit. I think about the night he cried on the floor among the toys, how I filmed it instead of helping. I think about his brother's face, the recognition in his eyes that I was a pattern, not a mistake. I think about the judge, the way she'd looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Yesterday, I saw Marcus at the grocery store. He was with his new girlfriend and they were laughing about something in the cereal aisle. I ducked behind a display of organic pasta, watching them through the gaps. He looked lighter, younger, the way he'd looked when we first met. The sight didn't make me sad, it made me angry. How dare he heal? How dare he move on while I'm still stuck in this studio apartment, unemployable, infamous. I almost approached them, almost ruined their moment with some performance of apology, but I stopped because even I recognized that would be another violation, another moment where I made his life about my narrative. The anger turned to something else then, something that might have been genuine regret if I could still recognize it. I went home and deleted all the content I'd been hoarding, unedited videos, screenshots of our old conversations, drafts of my redemption arc. It took 3 hours. When it was done, I sat in the silence and realized I had no idea who I was without an audience. The silence was terrifying, vast, empty of the validation I'd used as fuel. I picked up my phone and started to download TikTok, then threw the phone against the wall. It cracked but didn't break. Like me, I suppose. Publicly, if anyone still cared, they'd say I got what I deserved. Privately, I still check my old hashtags, still read the forums where people dissect my downfall. The gap between who I pretended to be, a warrior for sexual autonomy, and who I actually am, a woman who weaponized intimacy for profit and called it feminism, is so vast I don't know how to cross it. I wrote Marcus a letter last night, an actual paper letter apologizing without excuses. I don't know if I'll mail it. Part of me wants to post it online, turn even this genuine moment into content, because that's the only way I know how to exist anymore. The letter sits on my kitchen counter, an artifact of a person I'm not sure I can become. It says, "I used your love as raw material for a performance and then I sold tickets." It says, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I finally understand what I destroyed." It says, "The toys were never the problem, I was." I don't know if any of that's true. I think I believe it when I write it, but then I wake up and the first thing I do is check my phone for notifications that never come, and I realize I'm still performing, even for myself. Here's the final truth, the one that makes all the other confessions look like child's play. I'm telling you this now because I saw my metrics go up yesterday. Someone found my old content and started sharing it as a cautionary tale. and I gained 200 new followers. The dopamine hit was immediate, familiar, addictive. I almost posted something, almost leaned into the redemption after ruin angle. But then I looked at the cracked phone on my floor and saw my face reflected in it, hollow-eyed, twitching, and understood that if I don't stop performing now, I never will. The disease isn't that I hurt Marcus. It's that I do it again for another hit of validation. I'm posting this confession anonymously because I don't trust myself not to check the comments. I don't trust myself not to monetize even my own accountability. The woman who recorded her husband's pain for profit is still inside me, still looking for angles, still calculating how to spin this into a comeback. The only difference is that now I know she's there, and I'm trying, maybe failing, to stop feeding her. I told Marcus I preferred my toys because it was easier than admitting I'd built an entire career on his humiliation. He won't share my bed because I turned our most intimate moments into content, our conflicts into clickbait, his trust into a strategy session. The people who call me a feminist icon are wrong, but I can't correct them without admitting I'm the antagonist in my own marriage, the villain in a story I tried to sell as empowerment. I'm not posting this for redemption. I'm posting it because I need to practice telling the truth without checking how many people are listening. I need to learn that some things aren't content, that some wounds shouldn't be monetized, that my husband's pain wasn't a branding opportunity. I need to understand that the silencing I feared wasn't Marcus trying to control me, it was him begging me to stop performing our marriage to death. If you're reading this, don't defend me. Don't find excuses in my insecurity or his inadequacy. Don't turn this into a think piece about modern relationships. Just know that I had something real and I traded it for a comment section, and that trade has left me with nothing but the echo of my own voice, shouting into a void I built myself. I told him I preferred my toys. The truth is, I preferred the version of myself I could perform for strangers over the woman he actually loved. And that's why he won't share my bed. Not because of silicone or batteries, but because he finally realized he's been sleeping with an illusion, and illusions don't have the decency